Good evening and welcome. Who's in here? Oh, okay. Whoever you are that's watching tonight, welcome to my the usual talk with regards to this time we're going to have paranormal activity. In Manila, we don't usually have the hostile ones that actually hurts people, but we do have a lot of possessions. Whether in the city or in the provinces, but usually the activities that could cause a lot of uh, what do you call that possessions happens in um, the provinces down south usually. Um, the causes of uh, usual causes of these possessions are usually it usually happens to children for some strange reason. They seem to like kids a lot. And the spirits that causes this are usually earthbound spirits. In about 7 years ago, or is it 8 years ago, I went to this particular place in a nearby province here, somewhere around in the Bulacan area. That's uh, I can't remember the exact place, but they call that place the Red House, or in Filipino they call it Bahay na Pula. I don't understand why it's called that way, but they said that there are a lot of people who seem to. Oh, that was you. Okay. Hi, Victoria or Vicky. I rather call you Vicky. Anyway, um, back then I was amongst two other psychics. The other one is okay. I'd rather call Tori. Uh, Back in the day, that was 8 years ago, Vicky. I was amongst two other psychics. The other one just passed away about 3 years ago, and the other one is a good friend of mine. He's currently residing at the southernmost part of the country. Anyway, we did the paranormal show. We did the paranormal show for a particular uh, event. No. It's actually for a television series. And back in the day, I was still wondering why they call it Red House. Then it turns out it was called Red House because the house was painted in red, and that house has a very harsh historical uh, lifespan. It used to be a garrison for the Japanese during the Japanese occupation. Uh, there was a they resided. Some of the Japanese soldiers resided in that area. As I entered the house, there was this cold wind that like slap on my face out of nowhere. And the other psychics, I asked them to we should like go spread out. There were two rooms on the first on the ground floor area. Second floor has about two or three rooms. And when I first entered, in my mind was this is not a red house. This is a rotten house. And my other psychic friend said, "Why?" I said, "Because it's all tattered and torn and it's about to collapse in front of my eyes." And it was really horrible. That house was uh, totally a wreck already. It's almost ready to come down to like several thousand pieces. Uh, on the second floor, there was. I think I still have the pictures of that second floor, but the ground floor area I didn't exactly take pictures because what I saw gave me a shock, big time shock. Was I actually saw a soldier pulling a hair, pu- pulling a woman from the hair, dragging her from the floor. And in my mind was like, these aren't ghosts. They're called actually, they're memories. Memories of that particular house, history that keeps repeating itself. Those are like astral shells. I wouldn't exactly call them ghosts. They're memories of what had happened in the past. It keeps repeating. And then one of the psychics from the second floor started running downstairs. I said, "What happened?" And he said, "Like the soldiers are after me." I said, "Those aren't soldiers. Those are just memories. They will just pass right through you. They wouldn't even know that you're there." So he went back upstairs because he said he actually saw the soldiers like running after him, and he thought like he was gonna get killed or something. That's why he ran. He ran downstairs and gets to like talk to me and my other friend. And then my other friend's like, "This place has more memories than the ghosts." So I said like, "Yeah, it's because it used to be a garrison for the Japanese, so you'll see more of that." And then there was a tree on the back that was shaped of a woman. And I was wondering what was it? What was it? I mean, I haven't seen a plant like that before, but its actual shape was it was curved like that. So it was a woman standing at the back. And when there was someone who told us, well, one of the caretakers actually told me that the ghost was actually that was buried on that particular area where that tree that was shaped like a woman was. I think it was a reincarnation. She turned into a tree for some reason. And the spirit still lurks around the house. I can feel her, but I can't see her. The ones that we see usually are just the memories of that particular house. So not everything that we see is actually a ghost. Most of them could be just a memory, a past from what had happened before. Uh, could be because the maybe the person who died at that time had one of her, you know, that's what we believed in though. In my country, that's how I believe it. Let's say her sweat or her tears fell somewhere on that particular part of the house before she died. Then that particular moment of what had happened would keep repeating on that particular area. So I guess that woman before she died, I think she was always been in the kitchen. So that's where she is most of the time. That memory is always there. And then there was this particular uh, part of the city, actually, about 5 years ago. I went into this house. It was owned by a Singaporean man, and he was married to a Filipino woman. That was the first time that gave me the creeps big time because when I started taking photos of the entire house, I ended up taking photo of the dead zone. That's the area where the ghosts are hanging out usually, and everything was dark. It's like the camera was a colored digital camera, but when you take pictures of that particular house or that particular area, everything turned black and white. It's just uh, weird things going. It's like blurry, but it's not blurry. It's just black and white. Everything just turned black and white, and that was the stairs. Remember Vicky when we were watching uh, that episode of Phil? I was keep I was egging him on the stairs not to go through it because I think that's where it usually is. I mean the dead zone. once they take Once they take the camera and start walking on that particular staircase, I think everything will turn black and white because that's what then happened to me. Everything just turned into something else. It's as if you're still inside the house, but everything is just black and white. It's like being on a movie during the 1900s or something. Everything just turned black and white, and uh there are hands coming out of the stairs. I mean, like under the stairs, there were like hands going like it's like they're asking for help. And then there was uh where there were shoe racks on that particular staircase. On where I was, there was a shoe rack there, but when I took the picture, there was no shoe rack. It was it was so eerie. So when I stepped in, I have to step out immediately. When I stepped out, it was like everything was back to normal. And then I stepped back in there, and then everything was weird. It's like, okay, this is not what I expected to be. So I made phone calls. I called up my team of, well, my coven, actually. Then when we all passed through it, yeah, colors just, it's just, it's just dark, and then everything like the stairs became white, the facade uh was supposed to be yellow, the walls were supposed to be yellow, but the walls turned white, and then everything else is dark. So it's like I feel like I was in the movie or something. It was really weird. Yeah, it could be, it could be a memory, but yeah, it could be the memory zone, or it can be something else because I see people moving around, but there's hardly anybody in the house but the owner and the wife and the child. And the eerie part was the child. The child looked like it's something else. It's okay. The Singaporean man is actually Chinese. The woman is half Filipino, half Spanish type. So they're all like fair skinned. Yeah, yeah. It looks like that. So the the child looks like not Filipino, not Chinese either, but he seemed to be very angry. He just keeps crying. When my team arrived uh, in the area, the the kid started crying and crying and won't stop. When I touched the kid, his feet is really cold, and then he was like a I think he's about like 1 year old, but his attitude and everything was I was being friendly, but he was so eager to like slap me on the face or something. So I was I was feeling a little different about the child, and then my my colleague, the one who's living on the southernmost part of the country now, said something like, "Sis, I think the child is something else. I think he's possessed by one of the spirits inside the house." So we did a Wiccan ritual to cast out whatever it is that's bothering the child. And the weird part was the kid's skin tone was very okay. There is usually if it's Filipino, it's brown, but this child is like almost turning black. and the the hairs, his hair is like straight, but it's all standing up on ends, and he's very very angry, and his eyes is turning bloodshot. So I said, okay, this is something else. We have to do something about it. And then when we formed the circle on the back door, okay, this is where we are. This is the back door. On the back door there was a phantom standing, wearing a cloak, and it's holding on the baby chair. There was like a chair there, right beside me, and it was just hanging on to it. So I was wondering what was that about, and it seemed to me that I think it's one of his minions that was in there. So I finally had the guts to talk to it and give it a thought. They were asking for something. I know it usually it usually asks for an offering and something like that. So we have to bury something under the house, and then after putting cement on the hole where we dig up, we bent back to the stairs, and the memory disappeared. The dead zone disappeared. Everything that turned black and white turned into normal. So, and then the child turned into Chinese again. So the usual spirits that causes a lot of these events for mostly kids. I guess it has something to do with what do you call those? Those aren't memories. Those are entities that lurks around the house. I even tried sleeping there with the rest of my crew, and everybody started hearing footsteps on the staircase. And then my one of my staff said, "Miss, I think we better sleep downstairs instead, or we might not be able to go downstairs." I said, "Why? The stairs might disappear next because the shoe rack disappears every time we passes by." I said, "Okay, let's go downstairs." So we went downstairs, and then we slept downstairs. And give it 24 hours, uh, we have to do everything inside that particular house, including uh, the burying of the offerings and all that. It's just weird because it asks for black chicken. It sounds voodoo, but yeah, black chickens is only available in the western area of my country. That's when you see even the legs and the main skin of the chicken is black. They're asking for that particular chicken. It has to be black. So we have to go around the house with a dead black chicken, go just to appease the spirits inside that place. We didn't hurt anything. The usual, those are not spirit questers. Yeah, the bones are black. In Chinese, in the Chinese tradition, those black chicken, that's actually one of the best Chinese food that I could ever think of to keep the strength up. If you're like feeling very drained, that's the best thing to cook and eat besides the snakes. But yeah. Anyway, with regards to snakes, there is one uh, particular house in the Metro Manila area that I never dreamt of going because I know the spirits in there are very, how do you say this? I know there was a demon, and I know there were spirits in there, old ladies usually. I never dreamt of going there, but that house was named after a public official. I think it's a very very old house. It was built during uh, late 1800s. It was a Japanese, no, pre-Spanish occupation when that house was built. And I did an investigation for a particular show. I was with two other psychics. One of the psychics did uh, the ground floor area. I did the second floor, and the other psychic went on the third floor and the attic. On the second floor, that was one of the eeriest places that I've ever investigated because I was just, oh, the offering under the house, those were grains, all forms of grains and seeds, and then the chicken, and they were asking for virgin blood. I just have to negotiate for that because I don't think any of my members are virgins still. So when it asks for something like that, I have to haggle my way out into a black chicken or maybe at least wine, but they prefer, and it has to be something alive. I don't kill people, so might as well use the chicken. But at least I get to appease them. But I was told that that house was built. Um, it's like water underneath, so we can't uh, actually like when we dig the hole, we dig it very very, how do you say that, shallow. Because if you don't dig shallow enough, we might end up in the water. That's what they say, was there was water underneath the house. It was like, I think there was like five different grains, a feather. I remember coins. Also, it has to be silver and gold coins, and then seeds, grains, beans, red beans, black beans. Grains are like rice and oats. That's what we put in there. Yeah, but the one that seals off everything was the chicken's blood, the black chicken's blood. At least in America, you guys don't have something that actually asks for something like that. You know how hard it is to find a black chicken? It took us like 3 days to find that particular chicken. And in Chinatown, they were all fresh out of black chickens. So live ones even. Yeah, it's very, very rare. They had, I think, people need to breed that thing. It's very rare to find something so black. So, well, he the owners actually gave us enough to buy one of those. So, well, he said he needs to save his kid. So that's what we do. And then I told one one of my one of the elders of my coven that maybe next time, if we do something like this, maybe I could haggle for a goat instead. Goats aren't rare, but I can't kill those. I'm not voodoo. I'm vegetarian actually, so yeah. The one who has to perform it was the high priest of my coven, and I have three of those, so might as well make them do it. Not me. I can't do it. If I see the animal start like feeling the pain, I can't stand it. One of the houses here also was, we call it Casa de Sosiego. It's a place in Sosiego. It's a Spanish house. That one, I actually reenacted what happened on that particular bathroom. 13. Yeah, 13. Mostly gays. Mostly gays. And then it went, we went from 13 to 30, actually. I think on 30, 33 members. And that's when the number of high priests increased. Then we had a council. Uh, the what do you call this? That particular house, Casa de Shashego, I only took one high priest with me, or head priest even, with me, because we have an event that particular night when we have to do a shoot. And the host of the show was already scared halfway to death because when he was doing the interview, there was a candle floating on the bed. So she already ran like 5 times. And then on the second floor, one of the staff members, a girl Friday, um, of one of the psychics, was possessed by a spirit. And then the other psychic was doing several rituals. All I did was walk over to her, go into his ear, and I said, "Hey, if you're going to stay in that body, might as well move away because you don't want me getting pissed." And 5 minutes later, she went back to normal. But I did saw the spirit that went into her, and she's an old lady, Spanish-looking old lady, and she was standing at the back of one of the male psychics. He was sitting there, and then on the back of his on the sofa on the back of his there was the old lady standing like that. So I said thank you. The psychic guy was like, "You're welcome." I said I wasn't talking to you, and then yeah, I know you're talking to the old lady. But there'll be one of my minions or my head priest. I told him to investigate the one of the rooms. Turns out he was halfway sleepy because that was like 2 o'clock in the morning. He went into the rooms, and then after I did my investigation on the bathroom area, that's when I saw the whole reenactment of what had happened in that particular house. I saw a lady being dragged from the hair and smacked on the wall by a Spanish soldier, and then she was naked. And then I told them that there's something on the wall that uh, I think it was re-cemented or something. That's what I said, but I haven't seen that particular wall because it was covered with wet clothes. That they were drying the clothes there or something by those caretakers that live in that particular house. Then I grabbed I grabbed the what do you call that, the rack on where they hang the clothes on. When I grabbed the rack, there was an area of the whole wall that was cemented, re-cemented, and that was when the caretaker said, "I always see that lady inside this room," but I didn't know that is where they actually buried her. So I asked one of the crew members if they would allow us to break onto that wall. They broke the wall and the skull went rolling over. I was like, oh my god, I found where they buried her. That was when one of the psychics said, "You are too sharp." I said, "Like, it's not that I'm too sharp. I just saw how it was done. That's why. That's I just say what I see, and that's the weirdest gift that I ever had." They cracked the wall, and the skull went rolling over. So I said, "Oh my god! I just found that where they buried her. They buried her in the wall." So the government official actually cracked that house open when they found out what I found, and they had her buried in a normal, well, more, how to say that, decent way. Yeah, she has to be reburied at least. I don't know, like a little respect for the dead doesn't hurt anybody, right? So I told him it would help him, get better luck next time. I said, okay, we'll try something like that. So they reburied the body or the bones um, in a church, in a churchyard, which is, well, I would still say a much more decent burial. And I believe they already knocked the house down because that place, I told them there's more in that um, area. So if I were them, I will, you know, um, dig the whole place up just to find what else is laying down under there. Because there's definitely something under that house to be, having a lot of things moving around. The place, that house was actually being used as in the movies. It's like the Amityville house. They turn it into a set for a movie, and the movies that are always being shown using that house is always haunted. It has something to do with ghost, scary movies. I don't like horror movies too much. I had enough horror movies in my life. It happens when you do that all the time. You just don't, want to be associated with it anymore. There's a there's a supermarket close by where I live that has, I think, people died there several times. And the one time I went into the basement, I saw a lady. I even greeted her. I said, "Good morning." That was early morning. And then as she comes closer to me, she went from solid to air. So I said, I just said good morning to a ghost. And when I said earlier in the lives that what you will see is the actual thing that then happened to them. This woman had half of her face into something else. I mean, like it turned into something really bad. So I think when that woman died, she had an accident. Probably acid poured on her face or something. Who knows? But it's very eerie, and I think there's several of those also down there. So every time I go onto that supermarket, I don't go into the basement anymore because there are lots of spirits walking around. And then that's when I found out also that there are spirits who actually uh, it's when the land corroded, when the land goes down, That's why sometimes they see spirits floating. The ghost doesn't float exactly. The ghost uh stays on solid ground. Back in the day when they died, maybe the ground was higher up. Yeah, that's why when the land corroded, it went down. They started floating, and people think that they actually float. No, ghosts don't float. They don't float. They just happen to disappear from the planet back in the day when the land was higher up. So after the Mount Pinatubo eruption, which is the volcano in northernmost part of my country, one of my paranormal investigators told me that they see ghosts with their head popping out on the ground. I said it's because when they died, they were buried in the lava. So that's when you see them going around like that. You see the heads popping out. There are lots of those weird things that's happening in this country, and a lot of people in my country doesn't understand what happened or how did that happen. Uh, well, this is my experiences is more of a re-education for most people, just in case that anybody else is watching this, uh, seen something like that. Well, you shouldn't be afraid of ghosts. You should actually pray for them. Okay, let me give you a hint. If you see a if you see a ghost in white, pray for them. They need the prayers to help them see where to go. If you see spirits wearing black, you should pray for them more because they are seeking justice. Now, those ghosts that you see wearing black, I would suggest call a paranormal investigator. They would know what to do. Or call a witch if you may. They would know what to do. But if you see a spirit in red, don't just call any regular investigator. I would suggest call uh, a witch, a high magician, an exorcist, any of those, or a priest, if you may. If the priest is strong enough to withstand demons, then just go right ahead. But if you see a spirit in red, that's not a spirit, that's a demon. Probably somebody who got out of hell. So, well, in Wicca we don't have a hell, so I don't think they'll ever exist in my world. So there. Anyway, that's one of the points that I can give you. And not all the ghosts that you see, or not all the spirits that you see, are spirits. Most of the times, the spirits cannot see us, but we can see them because we have all the senses working. They don't. Oh, we have lots of those. I have lots of those here in my. I have lots of those in my house. Shadow people. Oh my god, that's like um a normal thing because of this flat where I live is one of the oldest flats in this area, and lots of times I would walk around the corridor and I would like see shadows, but swiftly moving, trying to get away from me. I don't know. Do I look like somebody who would bite shadows or something? But they seem to be running away from me all the time. In one of my aunt's house, yeah, I went, oh, office even, one of my mom's friend's office. It was in the elevator. Once, as soon as I rode the elevator going up to the floor where my office was, the there was swiftly it moved from the door around. But the bad part was he wouldn't stop moving around me. So I guess that spirit was trying to. I know it was trying to avoid me. That's for sure. Because he was just going like that. And this is me. He was going like that. It was annoying. I got annoyed. And I can't wait to get out. So as soon as I got out of the elevator, I ran. And when I ran, I think the shadow stayed in there. In my mind was like, as long as he doesn't take my shadow with him, I'm good. No problem. And then my mom had a helper in the house before that has a very weird shadow. In the morning, in the morning, her shadow is very small. It was a small man. It was like a dwarf. In the afternoon, her shadow turned into a woman with a very long hair. At night, her shadow turned into a giant, and she's very strong. She can carry like 5 gallons of water going up the stairs. And then I asked her what happened to her in the past, and she said when she was 9 years old, she was about to die, and the healer asked the spirits not to take her. So they took her shadow, but in exchange, her shadow is going to be the spirit's shadows. She's alive, but her shadow is immortal. So, so she walks around really weird because she has short hair in the afternoon, but her shadow has very long hair, reaching the ankles even. So that was weird. Yeah, we have lots of shadow peoples here and shadow exchangers, I guess. Uh, yeah, that was one. The one in the elevator. Here in my corridor, we have lots of those also. I don't know. Maybe it's because there were lots of people who like passed away or something. And this is one of the old buildings, so I think I better move into another one. I haven't seen shadow cats, but my my familiar, my cat who died, his spirit showed up to me, and I guess he doesn't really want to leave me alone. I told him to go rest, and maybe one day he will come back to me into a different cat. And I said, if should I get a new pet or a new familiar, I would still ask for him to be that familiar. He was very alert, and yeah, he's always watching over me. He knows if I'm sick. He knows if my mom was sick. And at one point, my mom was having a really bad stomach ache. He's a Persian cat, so he would lay down on where my mom is, and then he would lay down on my mom's tummy. My mom would wake up with a very hot stomach, and it's like, "What's up with this? How come my stomach is very hot?" And she wakes up in the morning. My cat will be in there, just waiting for her to get up in the morning. So it's like um, shadow cats I haven't seen, but the spirit of my familiar, that one I see. I guess I would still call for him. If ever he would still want to be my familiar, I would ask him to come back into another cat's body, probably. Anything else? I don't know, but a lot of people of my age would be very scared to see, entities, spirits. And there are still people who are wanting to learn more about spirits, but they're so afraid to see them. I mean, how will you learn about spirits if you're not going to see them? That's a little difficult. Okay, Vicky, I'll see you, and thank you very much for joining me. Or Tori. Okay, I always forget Tori, Tori, Tori. Okay, there. Now I memorized. Anyway, for those people who are going to be or are watching, thank you very much for being with me and watching. And please do ask if you have a question in the comments, and that will be really great because a lot of people would be asking around what happened tonight. Now, thank you very much, Tori Radcliffe, for joining me here and talking about a lot of things. Bye, Tori. I'll see you later. I know you'll be around Facebook. So I'll be dropping all the links to my social media and my website right below this video. And I hope you would like subscribe on my channel. And I'll see you again, all of you, soon. Bye. Blessed be.